Hello, welcome back to Pommyinoz. I hope we're all doing really well. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe, and if you can give it a share on your socials, it does help build the channel. If you are returning though, good day to you, my fellow Pommynozers. And what we're doing today is we're going to take a quick look at the game this weekend. It's had much change, hasn't it? 1 minute it's Sunday, 1 minute it's Saturday, we're in Geelong, we're in Perth, now we're at the G. Carlton's away game at Fremantle. So let's take a look. Both of these sides are in probably a need of a win. This is probably, we say it every week, don't we? It's a must-win game for us. Obviously, with the results last night as well, Gold Coast doing a number on Richmond really opens up that 8. Now, Fremantle have been playing some really good football. They're on the back of a 2-win game streak at the moment, looking to make it a third and playing some really good football, it has to be said. Carlton, they just got the win last week against Adelaide, and again, that finals word is opened up. And with the Adelaide game last year, it kind of had shades this year of the Fremantle game, doesn't it? You remember last year, results went our way, we played Adelaide, and there was still that finals door open. And if you remember, we gave Gibbs the send-off, and it feels like history's repeating itself for Carlton in that aesthetic for me, that this game there is a lot on the line. If they win this, do I think we're going to make finals? Probably not, but they've got to go in there and really believe that they can play finals this year, because if they're not, what's the point? What is the point of playing football if you don't believe you're the best? Now let's talk a little bit about team selection. Now, the thing about Fremantle and what is really interesting is their kick to handball ratio is one of the lowest in the AFL. They're a real handball heavy side. They love to move the ball in chains. And when you actually look at the personnel they've got at their disposal, it makes total sense. Also, one interesting facet of their game is they really do cause forward 50 turnover, and they are one of the least tackled sides in the AFL. And that is all down to Longmuir's game plan. It's a very efficient game plan about really stifling the opposition and getting the ball out wide. They play a real modern day football, and you can see when Collingwood were good why the Fremantle coach was hugely influential on that, because when they kick, they usually kick to space, and then it's an option of the handball chains and getting it away from contest. They're second last in opponent clearances per game. They're very, very tough to get the ball out of the middle. They're 5th in clearance differential, 5th in bottom 5 in opponent tackles as well. Very hard to tackle because of their game style, their myriad of a game style. And at the moment, the only thing Carlton have really done well is, you look at the rankings, we're top 3 for opposition handballs against. And there is a system here that this is going to be a real telling game, because Fremantle's game style, as it is, should beat Carlton. So if we're talking game style to game style, their strengths really do affect our weaknesses. But that being said, Carlton, when you look at the measurements, they're higher in metres gained. The way to beat this side is really playing on quickly and really looking to kind of copycat their system. If you look at teams that have done really well against Fremantle, they've just copied their system. They've worked the ball around the contest, which I think the team selection for me is lacking a little bit of pace, because that is where it's hurt. They've really jettisoned a bit of pace and a bit of ball use to go a more physical game style. And I'm going to tell you why that can work and that could go against us. These are the potential matchups that I would assume you will see the majority of the time. So I think that Carlton are going to have to deploy Walsh more on the wing at points in this game. He'll be going up against Brayshaw. Often Brayshaw is very like Walsh. He rotates on that wing and on the ball. I think that the forward line will take a little bit of a mix-up, because I want to talk about their contested work. So what you find here is these centre men, they have a really important job in the AFL, because you find that Carlton traditionally try and cram when the game gets stung a little bit behind the ball. So they try and really do that. Now, they've got the options here of Kennedy as well. I'd imagine that Curno's going to go to Monday for the majority of this game, because Monday, not Fife, is kind of their danger man in this situation. And what you find here is Mundy kind of works as like a backstop, almost. A backstop for them, almost like a quarterback. And he pops it out to Fife. And Fife, then, you find that what these guys do is they actually bring it into the contest to take it out of the contest via handball chains. And what we've seen a lot here is they attack this quadrant here. And I'd imagine Plowman's going to have Wheaters and Schultz. And what they try and effectively do is quite cleverly work it very quickly with some handball chains. We've seen this movement a lot. The handball chains back a 1-2 just on the outside of 50. And then it's basically a case of their forwards try and get just outside the goal square. And this kick comes across the 50. And that is a really good system for breaking the zonal system, because as we know, the zonal system kind of focuses more on space as opposed to the man. So that is going to be an area of which is a real concern. The other concern we want to look at a second is this one. From a kick-in. Now this is a really important part of Fremantle's game plan. Now what Fremantle do is they really have great pressure, and you see quite a lot. This bloke here, Liam Henry, causes absolute chaos because he genuinely sacrifices the handball outlet to Newman, because what you find is Collier, Mundy and Akers, or Brayshaw and Shearer, they basically set up for how Carlton set up to get the ball out. And what you find is Carlton traditionally, they pack out this area here. Carlton will pack out one area and they look to play it out with handball chains and a bit of run and carry and try and get through the corridor. Now what you find that they do is they're quite happy to leave this handball here. And you find Schultz and Henry put a lot of pressure on the guy doing a kick in from behind, very importantly. And a lot of turnovers. We saw that against Collingwood. That was the issue. Now, what that does is then teams scrap the playing it out style and just kick to the back. And you find this is where Darcy and Lobb, having two very mobile players, comes in handy, because they just basically slot into this kicking zone and look to bring it out. So how do you relieve that? Because what they're trying to do is get Carlton to kick. And that is really the methodology of how you beat the system. Now what Carlton have got to do here is be really bold. Really bold. And you've got to have lots of runners. And what I've seen Sard do quite well is that Stocker comes in to receive. Newman will go out and it'll cause this little bit of a crisscross here. And you found these kicks go to the corridor like that. And then Carlton are out. And that is how you get it, because they set a real big line across here. And Carlton will be looking to really utilise that handball a bit like they do. And that's what we're looking for. Now, the team doesn't say to me it's going to handball a lot. You've got a lot of tall timber and a lot of slow players. But you can still play that methodology, because what it creates is, and I would expect that they're going to use Levi, I would hope, just as the full stay-at-home forward. Keep that body, keep him on Pierce, and have that outlet ball. And if Carlton can do that, they go a long way to really alleviating the issue. It's going to be interesting as well, because if we go back to the centre clearance, one thing Carlton did very well last week was really in the second quarter mixing up who you're going with. So instead of trying to fold back and having a man behind the ball, quite often, because we've got these 6 and 6 in this square, Carlton kind of focus more on creating like a wall here to stop that. I'd actually go more aggressive and really try and get their side, right? And really risk conceding it out of the clearance, because what these guys are good at is really doing that. And you've got to be bold in your approach. And if you start breaking this chain down, and that will require, if it was me personally, I would be bringing, my stoppages would be Kennedy, Kerner and Stocker for a few with Cripps there and Walsh rotating through to really stifle their ball use out there, because that is where you want to do it. And Carlton have got a little bit of an option here, because I think we've got the mismatch in the forward line. So it's going to be a lot here for me is trying to free, and I'd be using Cripps here to try and free this space here for the tap down for Dow or Walsh to get the run on and get the early entry, because that is probably their weakness. When the ball hits the deck here, Fremantle have the advantage because Fremantle's transition is very good, particularly with players like Ryan, particularly with players like Aish, Wilson, good users of the ball, good interceptors as well. Carlton want to try and get this to hands. And if they can get outside 50s marks and really get some movement and really get some roaming going, Carlton have got a real shot there. That is where I think it is. And it's all going to be on the structure. Now, for me, we should win this game. We should do. There is no excuses here because statistically, man for man, we have the trumps. It's going to come down here to system and the will and determination because Fremantle are a very well-oiled machine and a side that are very, very deadly, particularly on the transition, and also their skill set is against us. But with all that being taken into account, we are at home, we have got lucky in that avenue, and it's going to be interesting. But I do think that team changes, for me, are a little bit weird, and it's not probably what I've gone with. But it should be an entertaining game. There it is then. Let me know what you think. That's a little bit of the crux of it. It's a must-win game for me. It does have shades of Adelaide last year. Let me know in the comments your predictions. And until next time, Pom out.